Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Yes, it's the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 916 for the 26th of April 2026. Richard Saunders coming to you from a blue sky, very blue sky, Sydney, Australia. If I look out the Skeptic Zone window, it's a clear blue sky. Sometimes there's aircraft coming over, which can be quite annoying for recording purposes. But you know what? I haven't seen an alien spaceship lately. And speaking of alien spaceships, we're going to kick off this week's show with a look at some of the high flyers who have hitchhiked along the cosmic highway to catch a ride on the UFO bandwagon, with particular emphasis on the name Bob Lazar. Now, these are people who have gained a reputation over the years of basically saying any day now, the truth is here, we are whistleblowers, the government's hiding everything. People like Richard Saunders are agents of disinformation. I don't know if they say that. They probably do. I don't know. The sort of people who would belittle people like Mick West, who does wonderful exposés into so-called alien spaceship videos. Now, I think I want to use the term alien spaceship more and more, rather than UFO, simply because UFO in the popular imagination means alien spaceship. Nevertheless, a look at some of the colourful characters coming up at the top of the show. After that, we pay respects to a much-loved broadcaster here in Australia by the name of James Valentine. I first met James Valentine way back in 1989 when I appeared on his afternoon children's show, very popular at the time. And later on, he interviewed me, when was that, 2014, to do with skepticism. And listeners, especially in Sydney, will know exactly who I'm talking about. Then we have the Australian Skeptics Newsletter, written by our news editor D over at Australian Skeptics, and read by Adrienne Hill in Skookum Studios in Calgary, Canada, because, well, we're an international show. Then to round off the episode today, we wander through the decades of digitised newspapers in the TROVE Archives, and we're going to be looking for references to alternative medicine, and a particularly interesting find I will read to you later to do with AIDS, published in the 1980s, all about AIDS quackery. Now this segment, the TROVE segment, includes the audio from a TV investigation over 20 years ago, 22 or 23 years ago, with Alynda Brown. Now, Alynda was a member of the Australian Skeptics Committee for a while, and she and I, together with Ian Bryce, founded the Mystery Investigators school show that ran for about 20 years. Anyway, Alynda Brown went undercover to check out all sorts of alternative medicine practitioners. Find out more about that at the end of the show. Now the weather's getting cooler in Australia. I hope you're all getting a better sleep. I always sleep better when it's cooler, under a couple of blankets or whatever. If I'm very lucky, over the last few years I've slept under, or on top of, I should say, an electric blanket. But sometimes all you need is the right pillow, The right comfortable pillow to adjust, especially when you have aches and pains. But now it's time for me to run downstairs, keep running, run to the bus, then to the train, then down the street, and I might visit Chinatown, not far away. While I do that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. You know, when I was a kid, way back in the 1970s, and I went to see Close Encounters of the Third Kind, UFOs were everywhere. They were in the newspapers, they were on the news, in breakfast cereals. Maybe they were breakfast cereals. I remember buying bubblegum cards or chewing gum cards from the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I bought enough that I made a poster. I wish I'd kept them all now. The idea of things like motherships hovering in orbit and sending little ships down below became sort of entrenched in the popular imagination. All that was almost 50 years ago. And if you were to ask me 50 years ago, I would have said, talking about 50 years in the future, by now we'd simply know aliens are everywhere, UFOs are visiting, they'd probably make contact. Alas, nothing like that has ever happened. But I guess it's no surprise that the story keeps going. It's a great story. It's a really great story. Are we alone in the universe? Are aliens visiting us already? Have people been abducted for experimentation? Were aliens around thousands of years ago to help people build things like the pyramids? So far, as Carl Sagan said, the evidence is really crummy. The latest buzzword among the UFO crowd is disclosure. There's a movement, a disclosure movement. There's a movie coming out about disclosure. The whole idea is any day now, the government will spill the beans and everything will become known. It's the notion that keeps people hooked. I have written about this. I wrote about this many years ago in the pages of the Skeptic magazine, and I read it here on the show. Any day now. It's what cults tell their followers. Any day now, our prophet Zabwab the Great will come back, or whatever the case may be. Any day now, science will catch up to homeopathy. Any day now, science will admit that creationism is real and the evidence supports creationism. This just goes on year after year, decade after decade, none more so than with the UFO industry. Now, over the last 10 years or so, certain names have been prominent in this industry. Stephen Greer, for example, known as the godfather of the modern disclosure movement. In 1993, Greer founded the Disclosure Project to promote the concept of government cover-ups of alien contact. In May 2001, he held a press conference at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., demanding Congress hold hearings on, quote, secret U.S. involvement with UFOs and extraterrestrials, end quote. Greer claims the military-industrial complex is suppressing both alien technology and the benevolent nature of visitors. It's funny how these visitors simply don't make themselves known. He has made millions from books, documentaries, and is part of the UFO industry. He spins a good story. And there are people like Luis Elizondo, a former Pentagon intelligence officer who became perhaps the most media-savvy disclosure advocate of the modern era. Elizondo became prominent after a 2017 article in the New York Times introduced him as the one-time leader of AATIP, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. He has lobbied Congress extensively and appeared in countless media appearances. A common thread we see with these self-described whistleblowers is that they have signed non-disclosure agreements which prevent them from providing the definitive evidence that would prove the veracity of their assertions. Then we have David Grush. In 2023, retired Air Force Intelligence Officer Grush testified before Congress claiming the existence of a secret crash retrieval and reverse engineering program involving extraterrestrials, but didn't supply any evidence beyond what he said or what he said he was told by others. Grush's second-hand claims are based on what he was purportedly told by dozens of people who had supposedly worked on the mysterious programs. He later admitted never having seen an alien spacecraft or a dead alien himself, but insists that others have. Jeremy Corbell, a documentary filmmaker who functions as a key media amplifier for UFO claims, and is most notably the director of the 2018 Bob Lazar film on Netflix, and more about Bob Lazar soon. He also promoted the Jellyfish UAP video and various other pieces of alleged footage. And the Jellyfish UAP, along with such famous videos as Tic Tac and Go Fast and so on, have been very well researched and analysed by Mick West. Now you can see Mick West's videos on YouTube, which systematically and thoroughly examine so-called alien spaceship videos or UFOs or UAP videos, and he also appears in the splendid documentary, The UFO Movie They Don't Want You to See. Corbell is widely described by skeptics as a hoax promoter who repackages unverified material for mass audiences, and even some UFO believers have criticised his credulous approach. And then we have Australia's Ross Coulthard, winner of the Bent Spoon Award from the Australian Skeptics. He was a former journalist on the 60 Minutes program here in Australia. He is also known as Ross Any Day Now Coulthard. He makes claims such as he has heard that, people have told him that, or if what I hear is true, then, and mentions such things as a giant alien spacecraft or something so big they had to build a building around it to hide it. Criticisms of Ross Coulthard aren't hard to find. As I said, he won the Australian Skeptics Bent Spoon Award some years ago. In fact, that was 2023. And long-time listeners to the Skeptic Zone will recall that every now and then I play the following.
I think 2024 in future will be seen, ironically, as the calm before the storm. Wow. I think very early in 2025, all hell is going to break loose.
Now I think Ross Coulthard is mentioning 2027 as the next possible date something will happen. And I noticed Ross Coulthard turned up at the 60th anniversary of the Westall UFO event, as mentioned recently on the Skeptic Zone, where they had a public gathering of some of the school children from all those years ago in an area called the Grange, where at least two, it's hard to say, people claim something touched down briefly near this school. And now there's a UFO-themed children's play area. But the name you'll probably hear most in the media over the next little while at least is Bob Lazar. And a quick look, for instance, over at the Internet Movie Database has an extensive list of media appearances and so on. Shows such as Weird Travels, UFO Top Secret, the Bob Lazar Interview, a show from 2004 called Conspiracy, Lazar, Cosmic Whistleblower. From 2018 we have Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers. He has appearances on the Joe Rogan Experience. From 2024, UFOs in Area 51, Secrets of the Black World Widescreen Deluxe, it says here, including Bob Lazar. And now in 2026, S4, the Bob Lazar Story. And the blurb says, from jet engines in Los Alamos, Bob Lazar's life is rooted in science. In 1988, hired at S4 near Area 51, he reverse-engineered alien tech. Narrated by Lazar, this film uses exclusive footage to reveal America's best-kept secret. I thought that would be the combination to the door at Fort Knox, but there you go. Lazar has claimed since the 1980s to have been part of a classified UFO government program concerned with the reverse engineering of extraterrestrial technology. He purported to have read government briefing documents that described alien involvement in human affairs over the past 10,000 years. In 1989, he appeared in an interview with reporter George Knapp on a Las Vegas TV station under the pseudonym of Dennis, and with his face hidden, to discuss his purported employment at S4, a subsidiary facility he claimed exists near the Area 51. Lazar said his job was to help with the reverse engineering of one of 9 flying saucers, which he alleged were extraterrestrial. And one wonders how people of this day and age could possibly reverse engineer something capable of interstellar travel from another civilization. It would be a big ask, I think. He claims one of the flying saucers, which he coined Sport Model, was manufactured out of a metallic substance similar in appearance and touch to liquid titanium, and referenced an element he called 115 as a power source. Now this prompts the question, is it true? We wonder. There are some problems here when it comes to academic credentials. This is the most thoroughly documented problem for Lazar, as he claims to have obtained a master's degree in physics from MIT and in electronics from Caltech. Even Stanton Friedman, the late Stanton Friedman, stated that nobody with Lazar's high school performance record would be accepted by either institution. Lazar is unable to supply the names of any lecturers or fellow students from his alleged tenures at MIT and Caltech. According to records, he actually graduated from high school late, in the bottom third of his class. The only science he took was a chemistry class. He subsequently attended Pierce Junior College in Los Angeles. Inquiries into Lazar's position at Los Alamos reveals his role to have been a technician for a contractor, and he worked neither as a physicist nor in the lab directly. The facility retains no records on Lazar. Now, as to this mysterious element 115, a real element, sometimes called Muscovium, element 115, exists but has a half-life measured in fractions of a second and offers no practical application as Lazar described. Now, given all the problems with Lazar's story, why does the story persist at all? Why do any of these UFO promoters, why do any of them, presumably, make a comfortable living out of pushing disclosure, UAPs, alien spaceships, UFOs, aliens, and reversing technology? It persists not because any of them have solved the UFO mystery. It persists because they haven't, and they probably can't and probably never will. And this keeps the story going so they can all say, any day now. And of course the number of people in society who have bought in to the UFO story are legion. There must be thousands or millions of people like this. The bottom line for Lazar is that his core claims rest on his own testimony. Every verifiable element of his background has been found to be fabricated or unverifiable. No physical evidence has emerged, and the unfalsifiable, quote, "They erased my records," end quote, response to all counter-evidence is a significant red flag. Is it ultimately just another case of storytelling in our society? A society, a species who loves myths and legends and tall stories. Maybe that's why people are so aggressive and rude and angry with skeptical inquiry. They don't want this bubble to be burst. They don't want illusions to be shattered. They don't want their fantasy to be proven to be fantasy. But then, can we expect that any day now all their assertions will be proven real? We can keep waiting, but any day now, I don't think that will be the case. I was very sad a few days ago to hear of the death of James Valentine. James Valentine was an Australian musician, radio and television presenter, and he played saxophone with the band The Models in the 1980s. Now, our reporter Maynard also knew James Valentine and worked with him on many occasions. I had the pleasure of meeting James Valentine a number of times over the decades. The first time I met him was at a live recording of a program called This Sporting Life with Roy and H.G. Roy Slavin and H.G. Nelson. And from memory, this was at Parramatta Leagues Club in 1989. I mentioned to James at the time that I just had a book out about origami. Some weeks later, it was arranged that I appear on The Afternoon Show, which was a children's afternoon show on the national broadcaster ABC TV. And luckily, I still have a video copy of that appearance, and here is a little excerpt.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. Yes, welcome to Come Clean, where we give you a few little snippets of information to help you preserve our fragile environment. And today, we've got a new trick to do with paper. We've talked a lot about paper recycling. There's a lot of talk about it in the press and all that sort of thing. You're meant to put all your papers out, get them picked up, get them pulped up, made back into paper again. Well, we've got another idea that you can do with bits of scrap paper around the house today. And to tell you all about it, Richard Saunders. Go, Richard.
Good day, James.
How are you? Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
What do you call yourself?
I beg your pardon?
Oh, I know you call yourself Richard, but, you're professional.
Oh, I see. I'm an origamitist.
Origamitist.
That's
An
right.
Origamitist.
I never use it because I can't say it.
And what does an origamitist do?
Well, apart from many other things, he folds origami.
Mm-hmm. Makes little things out of paper.
Exactly.
Okay. And now we've been ripping up the script here and handing it to Richard, and he's been manufacturing all sorts of things. He has it there at the moment. And while we talk to him, he's going to make a
Bird.
bird.
An ancient Japanese bird.
Is this a traditional?
This is a
Japanese-
traditional one. It's about 1,000 years old.
After James Valentine left his run there at the afternoon show in 1990, he continued with the ABC as a radio presenter. Many people in Sydney will remember his recent run at ABC Breakfast. Now I take you back to the year 2014, on the 28th of November, where I was contacted by James Valentine, or his producer, to appear on his then afternoon radio program to speak about the Australian Skeptics Convention and skepticism in general. And as a tribute to James Valentine, who will be sorely missed, here is that interview from 2014.
What should we be sceptical of at the moment? Are there particular things? Because I think there's almost like trends in things we need to be sceptical of. There's certain things. It might be, maybe at one point it was tarot card readers, then it's kind of spoon bending. Maybe now it's kind of like the kind of people that are contacting your deceased relatives, although I think those are mediums have been around for a while, but there seems to be television versions of that which are perfectly popular at the moment. So you may have some ideas there of things you've noticed that we should be perhaps a little sceptical of. And then I'm also intrigued about is there a sort of level of skepticism that is a healthy level? And at some point, do you have to have a certain amount of trust and belief? Or, should you just always be sceptical? The good news is that I've got Richard Saunders, who's a life member and former president of the Australian Skeptics, to discuss these things with, as well as you. You can call 1300 222 702 if you'd like to join us. Richard Saunders, good afternoon.
Good afternoon again. It's been a long time. In fact, I was on the afternoon show 25 years ago doing origami with you.
This is the kids TV show. Is that what you mean? Oh, that's so funny. Were you an origami expert at that point?
I came in, there was a section called Keep It Clean or something like that,
Right.
and you were suggesting that instead of throwing paper away, we could recycle it by turning it into origami.
Oh, gee, that was a genius idea.
It was.
Why wasn't that picked up at a national level?
I wish I knew.
That's very, very funny. Richard, well, lovely to talk to you again.
Thank you.
Let's do this every 25 years.
Let's do it, yeah.
Yeah. So your skepticism is not just, say, the paranormal or the spooky. Your skepticism, the Australian skeptics are about being well informed in all areas. Is that it?
Absolutely. I mean, at heart, the core, and the reason we really formed over 30 years ago was the paranormal. People were skeptical of the claims of the paranormal, talking to the dead, ghosts, all that sort of stuff. But over the years, it's encompassed a wide range of things, a lot to do with claims of alternative medicine, and more consumer affairs. I mean, if you buy a product like Choice Magazine, say, if it's a shonk, then it should be called out.
I mean, when it was formed, do you think the paranormal was more vigorous in a way, or interest in the paranormal was more vigorous?
Yeah, it's never completely gone away. There are still lots of people out there who consult tarot card readers and go to astrologers or fortune tellers, or even think people can talk with the dead. And that's something that's really hard to get on top of. But we have really important issues, you might say, like the vaccine deniers, people who are encouraging parents not to vaccinate their children against deadly diseases. We find something that deserves our attention.
Right, and is that really? Would you rather have a focus on that than the ghosts?
Oh, personally, I like the old-fashioned stuff. That's why it's a big organization. We've got people who can specialize.
Right.
I certainly think very strongly about the vaccination issue myself. In fact, I made a free documentary which is online called The Vaccination Chronicles, and if you Google that or YouTube that, you'll find that, all about vaccination. But at heart, I love the old-fashioned type talking to the dead and mind reading and all that sort of stuff.
Hang on, you saying people can't do that?
I'm saying that the evidence is really crummy.
Yeah, but so... I've seen a guy do it.
Have you? Well, look, to prove that we're not just a bunch of wowsers out there to spoil everybody's day, we have a prize of $100,000 to the first person who can show us under mutually agreed fair conditions, all above board, that they can do any paranormal or supernatural claim.
So all they have to do is, turn up to the lab and move the objects around or read someone's mind or predict the fall of the cards, and there's $100,000. Yeah,
not even the lab. They can do it in the comfort of their own home as long as everyone's happy with the conditions. And you'd think after 30-plus years somebody would have collected the money by now because the tests are designed for them to pass if they have the powers.
Right. Haven't found anyone yet?
Not yet, but the prize is there, and if somebody gets it, we'd be over the moon because it would mean there'd be a whole new branch of science open up. There'd be Nobel Prizes involved, millions of dollars. Yeah, I think it'd be very exciting.
Is there like a healthy level of skepticism? You think? Can you be too skeptical, Richard?
Yeah, but that's not. Then you stop being skeptic. You start being a believer. Once you start believing that something is the case, no matter what. That's not being a skeptic. Skeptic is somebody who's open to new evidence, but they need good proof. So I could say, I'll never believe in ghosts, end the story, go away. That's not skeptical. That's in a sense, being a believer.
Right.
So if someone can come along with convincing, credible evidence for ghosts, then I would have to change my mind. It's as simple as that.
I suppose what I mean, though, is like at some point, like if you're if you're skeptical of every single moment, in a sense, then that's a sort of harsh way to live or something. Or, there'd be something that you'd be a hard person to be around if everything's being questioned at every possible time.
You would. I haven't met anyone like that, honestly. Yeah. I think we'd boot them out of the society, quite frankly. No, you can't live life like that. I mean... I'm talking to you on the phone. I might have sat here and think, ooh, if I touch that phone, will I get electrocuted? I'm quite skeptical. Life doesn't work like that. A lot of things you simply take as read and you get along with your life. But when a claim comes along which contradicts the known laws of nature, then your ears should prick up and you should be skeptical. You should demand good evidence before you invest your emotions or your money into it.
Like, do we have an equivalent of spoon bending today? What spoon bending has morphed into?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably talking to the dead. I mean, we get the hot shots coming out here from the States or whatever the case may be and claim they can actually talk to deceased people, which is a pretty far-fetched claim. They'll go on tabloid TV, morning TV, the women's magazines, the OK sort of magazines, and then they go home.
What are the tricks to that?
The tricks are many and various. You can buy books about it. It's quite an interesting study. The thumbnail sketch is you ask questions and you are fed back the information, and then you feed that information you get back to the person as if you're getting it from divine means or from beyond the grave. There's many, many subtleties to it. There are many ways, like you could say to an audience, I'm getting a strange sensation. Who is it? I'm getting a father figure here. Who's the father figure? And there's a red car. Now, a father figure could mean a father, a grandfather, an uncle, an older brother, a good friend who's older, a teacher, and so on and so forth. So they really throw out a lot of questions to the audience, and they're fed back information, and they work from there. But there are many ways to do it. Some of them use what we call hot reading. So they know a little bit about the person before they step out onto the stage, so they've got a bit of a leg up.
But it's that sort of feeding of the questions, and it doesn't, to us, it doesn't look like they're doing that, does it? I mean, what you did then, you think, well, I would see that.
People don't. It's really interesting. People don't, and people don't remember a reading, the true nature of a reading after it's happened. And though the questions I put before, I'm sensing a father figure. Can anyone relate to that? Someone will say, oh yeah, my Uncle Jim, he just passed away. When asked later, they will most probably say, that guy was amazing. He contacted my Uncle Jim. He knew about my Uncle Jim.
Right. They don't remember telling him about Uncle Jim.
Yeah. And we find that a very common thing. But that's the way the human mind works. The human mind is not an MP3 recorder or an old VCR recorder. Memories are reconstructions of the past. They're not recordings. The default position of the human brain when you hear something is to believe it. And it takes a little bit extra effort to then start to question things. It's just easier to believe interesting things you hear and just say, oh, that must be true. I heard it on the TV or the radio, or I read it on the internet, and you don't have to think much about it.
Richard, nice to talk to you, and thanks for your company this morning. Good. I hope the convention goes well.
Thank you very much. People can find out about it at skeptics.com.au, and it should be a great weekend.
Richard Saunders, former president of the Australian Skeptics.
Thank you, James Valentine, for decades and decades of informative and entertaining broadcasting. And I noticed it's being reported that not long before he died, James Valentine was awarded a member of the Order of Australia.
Hello everyone, this is Adrienne Hill, here in Skookum Studios in Calgary, Canada, and I'm going to read the highlights from the Australian Skeptics Newsletter. This is newsletter number 245. Don't forget, you can sign up to this newsletter at skeptics.com.au and get the full report, complete with all the links every other week, right into your inbox. But let's see what our news editor, Dee, has for us this time. Hi all, says Dee. For our upcoming collaborative convention, Nauticon, Australian Skeptics is proud to be presenting multiple scholarships for students to attend. We encourage you to forward details to applicable students. See the details at skeptics.com.au. Also, in the news this fortnight, there was an unsurprising flurry of misinformation and conspiratorial theories surrounding current events, primarily global conflicts, and the recent Artemis II lunar mission the other week. Personally, I was very excited to see NASA return to the moon and look forward to seeing more activity in our lonely orbit. In the meantime, read on, Dee. Okay, Dee, I'll do just that. Nominations for the 2026 Bent Spoon are still open. If you have a burning nomination for the perpetrator of the most preposterous piece of paranormal or pseudoscientific piffle, you can forward them to our nomination page. Nominations should be for events, activities, or claims that have occurred in Australia or by Australians. Have a look at that growing list of nominations at skeptics.com.au. The winner will be announced at Nauticon Skepticon in July. RFK Jr.'s keto diet can cure schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. The anti-vax profiteer, wellness grifter, and HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has recently proclaimed that the keto diet can cure mental health disorders like schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. Wouldn't that be great if it was true? Not that anyone should take medical advice from him on anything, but this approaches his anti-vaccine rhetoric for its level of danger to public health. Also, RFK Jr. promotes strict dieting to cure type 1 diabetes. RFK Jr. makes the common mistake of thinking that diabetes is a single disease, but it is several distinct diseases. Diet can help with some aspects of managing diabetes, but it is not a cure. How many U.S. healthcare workers are getting vaccinated? A new survey from the CDC provides data on how many U.S. healthcare workers are receiving flu and COVID vaccines in the 2024 to 2025 season. Although the numbers aren't as high as many would have liked, it is still higher than in the general population. Deep Fake 9. Some believe Artemis 2 mission is a hoax. NASA launched the Artemis 2 mission last week, sending the first crewed spacecraft to the moon in more than 50 years. But a small, dogged group of lunar deniers have claimed the whole thing is a hoax. This is a welcome return to homegrown traditional conspiracy theories. Emperor penguins, Antarctic fur seals, are endangered due to climate change. Emperor penguins and Antarctic fur seals are undergoing significant population reductions because of the impacts of climate change on their habitat and food supply. The International Union for Conservation of Nature, or IUCN, now categorizes both species as endangered. Scientists and conservation groups say urgent reductions in greenhouse gas emissions are needed to reduce the risks to the endangered species. Items of interest. UFO stuff. Quote, most UFOs are reported by people out for an evening smoke. End quote. This is a nice story about a nice UFO investigator who gently disabuses people of their claims, including the woman who chased an alien craft for a month. It turned out to be the moon. Oh dear. She wasn't wearing her glasses, apparently. And interesting UFO files are available any day now. This story is appearing everywhere, so it must be true. Donald Trump asked for all government departments to release what they have on UFOs or UAPs, and he says there are, quote, many very interesting records, end quote, which assumes he has read them. And White House asked about UFO researchers. Apparently, there's been a glut of UFO and military people who have disappeared or just died of late, which naturally means conspiracies. Seducing the Sasquatch. In the recent film Bigfoot, I Love You, a young couple takes to the forests of Normandy searching for the elusive Bigfoot, finding more than they bargained for. Honestly, I'm glad the abominable Grassman can find work in the rom-coms these days. Silly story of the week. A ghost appears at Gateacre Pub in, quote, 1 in a million shot, end quote. 1 in a million is right, because out of millions of ghost evidence, they all have the decency to contain a vague appearance of a personable apparition. Now here, I can barely tell between a shadow or black mold crawling up the wall. Dope! Story of the week. We are entering a golden age for deranged UFO documentaries. And I couldn't be happier. As vexing as the recent UFO hysteria has been for most, myself included, I'm grateful that someone can at least have a laugh at it, even if it was a few years ago. Quote, aliens are having a big 2023, which is great news for fans of schlocky, barely credible documentaries that make you think, what if? End quote. Well, that's all for this week's newsletter. But I want to return to the article about the Gateacre pub story. I wanted to see what this 1 in a million ghost shot looked like, and I found the article on MSN that discussed the history of the building and showed the apparent ghost photo, which was about as good as one would expect, and needed an arrow to point it out. And it's always an arrow or a circle, it seems. The old pub has had an interesting history as a manor, restaurant, nightclub, and a pub, but is no longer occupied, and there is a constant issue of fly tipping in front of the abandoned building. Now, I had no idea what fly tipping was, and I had visions of flies buzzing around the entranceway, with so many that the stairs were tipping from the weight of them all. But no. This United Kingdom and Irish phrase means the illegal dumping of waste, and the pictures showed all kinds of rubbish in front of the building. Apparently, it is a combination of the word fly, as in on the fly or not being caught, and tipping, meaning to dump or throw something out. This was commonly first reported in the 1930s as a result of people fly tipping coal ash, building rubble, and household waste to avoid disposal fees. Now, if you want to see these pictures of this so-called ghost, you can check it out on the MSN website or find the link in the newsletter, or come see me at We Can Reason. I'm going to use those pictures in my talk. Until next time, this is Adrienne Hill from Skookum Studios in Calgary, Canada.
Time once again to run back to those pages at Trove at trove.nla.gov.au. And this Trove is sort of in conjunction with a file I discovered, searching through my filing system here, my archives, way back in, and I'm guessing, because I don't have a date on the actual video, around about 2001, 2002, or 2003, my dear friend and former member of Australian Skeptics, Alynda Brown, who started the Mystery Investigators school show with me over 20 years ago, along with Ian Bryce. Alynda and I had many skeptical adventures a long time ago. Well, she appeared on Today Tonight television program. It's sort of a current affairs, investigative, tabloid-type program, and went undercover to get diagnosed by various alternative medicine practitioners. And you don't need the video. If the story is carried by the audio, and here is the audio from that program all those years ago.
My main concern is that people will put off or delay treatment that will work for something which doesn't. Hiya, I'd like to make an appointment with the homeopath.
I would urge people, it is a buyer beware market, and I think that's one of the things that really needs to be stressed. There are exceptionally good practitioners out there, and there are some exceptionally poor.
Alternative therapy is big business. You only have to open up the yellow pages and browse through the hundreds of practitioners available to understand the popularity. But how many of them are true blue?
Let's put these people to the test, a fair test. I'll go in and I'll say, I've been working hard, I'm feeling a little run down, I've had the flu, I have, and see what they come up with. Hi, I'd like to make an appointment with the iridologist for myself and my son.
We randomly selected 4 therapists and asked Alynda Brown to make appointments for herself and her 9-year-old son, Christopher.
Fine. Okay, thank you. We'll see you then. I'll be seeing an iridologist, a homeopath, a naturopath, and a kinesiologist.
As you've been making these appointments, how busy have they been?
Either they only work certain days of the week, or they're booked out. So they're doing a good trade.
Alynda and Chris's first visit was with a homeopath. They were interviewed, given 4 remedies and charged $60.
She didn't say anything was wrong. She didn't do a diagnosis. She didn't even come near us. She didn't take a temperature. She didn't take a pulse or a blood pressure.
The pair then visited a kinesiologist, a therapy which works on the body's energy fields and pressure points. She diagnosed that Alynda's hips were out of alignment and said Alynda had internal scarring on her uterus.
I apparently, about 6 weeks ago, had somebody dump all of their problems on me, and this is draining all of my energy because I said I'd been feeling tired. So she manipulated around, but the way she did it is by manipulating the energy that goes through your body. It's like a spider web, apparently.
Interestingly, Chris was told he had an overlapping of bones on the top of his head.
And the treatment for this is to hang upside down for monkey bars. For how long? Didn't say, actually.
That trip cost $65. The next appointment was with a naturopath. Alynda praised the dietary advice, but questioned the diagnosis using iridology.
I apparently have a mark in low right eye, which indicates a problem with the pancreas, which is low blood sugar, which is why I'm getting tired. She was hinting that there's a possibility that I could have something like glandular fever because of the tiredness.
The naturopath also suggested Alynda get her blood sugar levels tested because she may have diabetes. The remedies given included a bottle of vitamin B and a herbal concoction. All up, it cost $106.60. The last trip was to the iridologist.
He said I had problems with my spine, and he also said because I was tired all the time, I went to him with that problem. I needed to improve my adrenal glands so I get more adrenaline pumping.
Including the 2 remedies prescribed, this trip was the most expensive, costing $130. All up, the pair were given 7 different remedies for the ailments they were diagnosed with. Alynda's diagnoses ranged from a possible glandular fever and diabetes through to underactive adrenal glands and a problem with her pancreas. Alynda took a blood test for confirmation, but the results found Alynda was perfectly normal.
I get enormously frustrated. Having been in the business of educating naturopaths for a long time and doing it terribly well at Australasian College, it worries me a great deal to hear these stories.
When we approached Alison Johnson, a naturopath and college dean at the Australasian College of Natural Therapies, she was concerned about some of the diagnoses given to Alynda and Chris, especially the possible diabetes and pancreas problems.
That horrifies me. And I mean, to say possible diabetes is a great leap of faith from seeing something about the pancreas. And I think that's irresponsible. One thing I've learned is that what you say and what people hear can be 2 different things. So you have to be very, very careful about what you report seeing in someone's eyes. And you don't say things in a way that you alarm them. At our college, it takes 4 years full-time to become a naturopath. I might also add that it's a university degree course.
Frida Bierlich is the Vice President of the Australian Traditional Medicine Society. She worries about the lack of training some therapists have before entering the profession.
We have come across many complaints from patients having accessed these practitioners. The low level of training that these people have received is absolutely alarming.
What should consumers look for when finding a natural therapist?
I don't think anybody should be looking for practitioners in the yellow pages. That would be my answer to that. Rather, pick up the telephone and ring one of the major associations.
And the take-home message for me from listening to that program all those years ago is that even then, as the case is still today, there are many unqualified people out there. Well, let me see if I can put that another way. Some of them have qualifications, but the qualifications are to be polite, questionable. It's no good spending a year or half a year doing a course on applied kinesiology or acupuncture than waving around a diploma when the whole premise is bunk. Well, with all that in mind, let's run to the archives at Trove and have a look for some alternative medicine. And our first newspaper on the list comes to us from where? Comes to us from Adelaide, South Australia, Port Adelaide, the Hills Messenger. And this is from 1991 on July the 17th. Alternative healing art exciting. Barbara McLeod is a specialist kinesiologist, running a busy private practice as well as a teacher in this exciting field. And I know I say this so often, especially in the Trove segment, but all the things I look at from decades and decades and decades ago, you think by now would have had plenty of time to prove their bona fides. Barbara came to this work through her own personal recovery from a debilitating illness and has not looked back since. After studying throughout Australia and teaching in Adelaide and New Zealand, Barbara is now sharing her experiences and knowledge. Kinesiology is an alternative healing art, which requires muscle testing to identify blockages in the person's energy fields. Now, if you or I were a reporter for this newspaper, writing this piece, would we just put down blockages in a person's energy fields without questioning it? I wonder. We read on. This is extremely gentle and unintrusive, requiring no drugs or manipulations. When your energy fields are not working in unison, you will suffer many varied physical and emotional problems. Barbara's belief is that, quote, all physical and emotional illnesses stem from an imbalance in the energy fields. Our energy fields become imbalanced through mental, physical, and chemical imbalances, such as a bodily blow, programmed belief system, I'm not good enough or I'm not clever enough, accident or operation or food or environmental allergies, end quote, said Barbara's. I'm sure that should be said Barbara. Barbara is teaching 2 courses at Panorama TAFE, and that stands for Technical and Further Education, this term, Basic 1 Brain and Touch for Health. Both of these courses require no previous experience, just a quest for knowledge and how to take responsibility for your own health in a very natural way. Touch for Health teaches the balance of the meridian system via neurolymphatic, neurovascular, and muscle systems. It also teaches how to release allergies. Basic 1 Brain was originated to help children with learning difficulties, but has been found to help people in all areas of their lives. Both courses are designed to help to build self-esteem, improve your health, improve communications, improve learning abilities, and improve relationships. All this is taught in very simple techniques which have been put together for the layperson so that everyone can go home with the power to change their lives. Sounds too good to be true. For more information, contact Barbara at the Kinesiology Centre of South Australia, and there's a phone number there. And I note, of course, that there are still businesses, here in Sydney at least, probably all around the world, teaching people how to do this nonsense. I wonder if my energies have been blocked. Probably have many times. Luckily for me, I had my chakras removed some time ago. They were just giving me so much trouble. They were always out of alignment or out of balance or the wrong color or something. Surgically removed. Life hasn't been better. What, you're skeptical? Well, proof they haven't. And one more this week, and this comes to us from, where does this come to us from? That's a good question. I'll look at the top of the page. This comes to us from the Canberra Times, where we find a wealth of very good articles. Dated 1987, October the 13th, almost 40 years ago. Quacks and profiteers prey on the despair of people suffering from AIDS. A story by Sharon Cohen in Chicago. Breathe in chlorine bleach. Thump your chest like a gorilla. Sip some energy soup. Swallow a capsule of mushroom extract. Indulge in bee pollen. These are among the unorthodox, often bizarre treatments that have been proposed for AIDS, the incurable disease so devastating that many of its victims seek help beyond traditional medicine. What they turn to is a network of underground treatments ranging from acupuncture to algae to massage to meditation to some very peculiar therapies, exposing one's genitals and rectum to the late afternoon sun, for example. Quote, AIDS treatment has been going underground since day one, end quote, said Gregory Shipman, medical director of the Howard Brown Memorial Clinic in Chicago. Quote, people, when they're told they have a fatal illness and there's no hope, they tend to try anything to try and prove people wrong. Beyond the strange but semi-legitimate medical treatments, however, a market has been created for hucksters who peddle worthless, even dangerous products to stick people, end quote. Quote, the cancer quacks have shifted into AIDS. The health food quacks, the fringe practitioners, the profiteers have shifted into AIDS, end quote, said Dr. John Renner, a Kansas City physician and a member of the National Council Against Health Fraud. Quote, they see the handwriting on the wall. It's money first, money second, and money third, end quote. Many people dealing with AIDS denounce fraud, but insist that most of those promoting treatments are well-intentioned and that the products are inexpensive and can help. Although few treatments purport to be outright cures, medical and legal authorities worry that people are being misled or bilked through false claims. Wow, not much has changed in all the years since this has been written. Already, efforts are on the way to protect AIDS victims. California, for example, has established an AIDS fraud task force. Quote, I have no doubt this will be an area that, if not currently rampant with fraud, soon will be, end quote, said Mr. Michael Botwin, head of the task force run through the California Attorney General's office. It follows economic trends. Other crackdowns on AIDS-related products include Californian health authorities stopped one company from promoting mushroom extract as an AIDS treatment and a second from promoting pills that claim to boost the immune system. Boost the immune system. Now there's a claim that is still used to this very day. The companies admitted to wrongdoing, but paid fines and agreed to stop selling the products or change their advertising. The Food and Drug Administration seized property from 2 Florida offices of life extension products, including BHT, a food preservative being promoted as a treatment for herpes and AIDS, according to an FDA spokesman, Mr. Brad Stone. The case is under investigation. The FDA also halted sales of a douche, largely salt water, that was being promoted as a disease-fighting agent against AIDS, he said. In New York, authorities accused a man of posing as a doctor and peddling herbal medicines claiming to cure AIDS. His trial is pending. Acquired immune deficiency syndrome cripples the body's defenses against disease. leaving a person prey to life-threatening infections and certain cancers. Many AIDS remedies claim to enhance the immune system, although Dr. Renner said no commercially available substance can do that. He said that items he had seen at health fairs claiming to boost the immune system included bee pollen, garlic, and herbs. He also said he purchased through the mail for $25, which in those days was worth $34.60 Australian, 2 bottles that purportedly contained processed T cells, a type of white blood cell that is important to the immune system and is destroyed by AIDS. With the bottles was a piece of paper that implied the contents could replace destroyed cells, a claim that Dr. Renner said was ludicrous. Dr. Renner should come to Mind Body Wallet sometime. Other proposed AIDS treatments are chlorine bleach baths. Good grief. Sitting in the sun at a 45-degree angle, allowing the light to shine directly on the rectum and genitals. And certain diets, one of which claims it can cleanse, strengthen, and rebuild the immune system with easy-to-digest meals that include energy soup made from apples, sprouts, and avocados. While doctors are critical of underground treatments, many who deal with the AIDS crisis argue that the treatments give people a feeling of control, a sense of hope, and, in some instances, actual improvements in their health. Quote, "What's more, 90% of alternative resources are helpful and are cheap or free," end quote, said Mr. Doug Yagoloff, co-editor of Healing AIDS, a San Francisco-based newsletter. Quote, "If they spend $25 on blue-green manna algae, how much have they lost? If a treatment picks up their spirits and helps somebody cope, it improves their lives," end quote. He added, quote, "When they decide they want to live, it's hard to prey on them. They have empowered themselves beyond belief," end quote. Healing AIDS includes articles and listings on social events, counseling, massage services, macrobiotic diets, and products that claim to boost the immune system, such as flower pollen and blue-green algae. And I find this story very worthwhile, and I think I'll keep this one in the archives. And it really does show that not much has changed. There are still outrageous claims being made. Again, all you need to do is take a trip to Mind Body Wallet. Boost the immune system, a cry through the ages. Well, there we go. What an interesting couple of articles there, all about the wonders of alternative medicine from many, many years ago. And it just goes to show that when you go to Trove at trove.nla.gov.au, type in your search, you never know what bogus medical practices you might find. Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast, and thank you to those people who support the show via PayPal or Patreon. It means a lot, and it means the show can keep going. Now, if you're in Calgary, Canada, don't miss out on We Can Reason, and you can find out more at wecanreason.com. And of course, this is the Western Canadian Reason Conference, We Can Reason in Calgary, from the 1st of May to the 3rd of May. Again, for more information, head to wecanreason.com. Before I go, thank you to those people who have been, lending their voices over at the YouTube video of the Australian story about the Westall UFO event. As I was reading out last week, lots of rude comments there about me in particular, and I think attacking anybody who dares suggest a more mundane explanation for what the children saw 60 years ago. The UFO industry have co-opted this story, well, they have for many years, and there are people there who simply need and want it to be an alien spacecraft that buzzed the school. Coming up on next week's show, I think we have another Woo Watch with Kate Thomas. And if you're not listening to her podcast On the Moans, you should be. It's a wonderful podcast. And recently she had a special guest, Jean Kitson. And Jean Kitson is a name known to many Australians. She was a huge comedy star of the 80s and the 90s. And she has done wonderful work since then, particularly with women's issues and things like palliative care. Have a listen to On the Moans link at skepticzone.tv. And just before I go, don't forget, if you're a secondary or tertiary student here in Australia and you'd like to attend Noticon in July, the Skeptics Guide to the Universe Rogues and the Australian Skeptics, putting together a convention of sorts, head to skeptics.com.au and you can enter your name in for a possible scholarship, which means you get quite a large chunk of the entry fee covered. And I notice we have entries already rolling in for that. And having said all that, for now, this is Richard Saunders signing off from alien spaceship-free Sydney, Australia.
You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Please visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for episodes and show notes with links going back to 2008. You can follow the Skeptic Zone on Facebook, X, TikTok and YouTube by clicking the links at our homepage, together with links to support the show financially via Patreon or PayPal. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed by our guests are not necessarily those of the Skeptic Zone podcast or any other skeptical organisation.